Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rancho. Go ahead and stand to your feet. So this Sunday is our Throwback Sunday. But what we realized when we were looking at all the songs, we're like, oh man, this throwback and this throwback they're all from like 2000. So it's not too much of a throwback. I told Scott said, I don't know if we can do a throwback in the tradition service because I don't know any like Gregorian chants or anything. I don't know if we can do that. But anyway, so this is going to be a Throwback Sunday. This is some of the songs that we grew up with, I guess, in high school and things like that. So we should all know the words to these. It's going to be a lot of fun. Come on, let's sing together. Put your hands together. Let's sing this out together. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living on for you. Come on. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight. For you. Sing it again, say you are. You are the way, the truth, and the life. We live by faith and not by sight. For you, we're living on for you. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could live for. One way, Jesus, you're the only one that I could. I don't know if you guys know how hard it is to sing that song with no Australian accent. It is so difficult not to just one way. Like for some reason, that's how that song is supposed to be sung. And also, I was debating on lowering my acoustic, like lowering the guitar down to here. Because that's that's the music video. That's all the things. Sure. But these are those songs I know that I grew up in listening to in youth group, and you said that you also...
I did. They were a little old for me, but they're like the throwback songs for me when I was in high school, and they're still really good. They're still really good.
Yeah, that was the song. Like literally all of these songs to us, it's almost that how we were introduced to Jesus, and how I know for you as well, how you learned things about God.
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
through these songs.
Yeah, through youth group, for me, it was the worship, like all the songs and everything that taught me about God. And I love this next song. It's one of my favorite throwback songs because when I first started leading worship again, I led worship in youth group, and then I started leading worship again later in life. And it had been like 10 years, and I was so bad. But this is the only, I just tried, there was like no worship in our youth group, and I'm like, there has to be worship. Not here, somewhere else, but I'm like, there has to be worship. So I asked every girl, will you sing, will you sing, will you sing? Nobody wanted to sing. I asked everyone, so I found one guy that would play the guitar. But he only knew like certain things. So like him and I knew How Great Is Our God, and that was it. And so we sang that every single week, and we'd like introduce new ones, and we'd get to like rehearsal, and we would just like read the sheet music and be like, oh no, can't do that one. Turns out it's too high for me, and he couldn't change the key. It was like so sad, but we're like, how great is our God? Like we got that one down, and so I'm so excited to like do that one again. But it really did truly have an impact on my life and the kids' lives during those times. Just the powerful words, just reflecting on God's goodness. So
let's sing this song out.
The splendor of a king, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, and darkness tries to hide. Trembles at his voice, it trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? And all will sing, how great is our God? Out if you know the song, let's sing. And the age to
sing this together. You stood before creation. You stood before creation. Eternity in your hands. You spoke the earth to motion. My soul now to stand. You stood before my failures, carried the cross for my shame. My sin weighed upon your shoulders. My soul now to stand. So what could I say? And what could I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. So I walk upon salvation, your spirit alive in me is a light to declare your promise. My soul now to stand. Come on, what could I say? What could I say? What could I do? But offer this heart, oh God, completely to you. What could I say? What could I do? Arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrendered. All I am is yours. Say, I stand, come on. I stand with arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I'll stand, my soul, Lord, to you surrender. All I am is yours. Say, I'll stand, arms high and heart abandoned in awe of the one who gave it all. I stand, so Lord, to you surrender. All I am is yours. Say, all I am, all I am is yours. Say, all I am is yours. So we are Jesus, we're yours, we're yours. So what could I say? And what could I do? But offer completely to you. It's all for you. Amen, amen. You all may be seated this morning.
All right, good morning, Rancho. Hey, let's give it up for our band with those throwback worship songs. That was amazing. Should we do that again? Should we do that maybe in a couple months and bring back some of those old songs that you guys know and you love? Hey, my name's Alex. It's time for What's Going On at Rancho. We've got all kinds of cool stuff happening. I brought a friend of mine. It's Throwback Sunday, and I don't know if he's coming or not, but I thought I invited my friend Shane Treadway, who's super cool. Come on out, Shane. We're going to do this Wagar together. Oh my gosh.
Dude, you think I'm cool, man? This place is awesome, dude. Can't even. Wow, this is rad, man. What's going on here?
Dude,
look at this.
Straight out of the 80s, bro.
Dude, I've never seen it like a TV that big. Wow. Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey,
how's it going?
We got Shane Treadway here, throwing it all the way back to when jean jackets were cool.
Oh, dude, jean jackets are still cool. I borrowed this from my daughter this morning, man. They got it full circle.
Nice.
So rad.
Well, hey, me and Shane want to welcome you this morning. We're so glad you decided to join us. Let's give it up for this huge section of young people right over there.
What's
Youth
up,
movement,
youth?
what's up?
Man, you guys are awesome.
If you are new this morning and you would like to just learn more about Rancho, maybe get connected, take your next step, you can text the word new to 951-379-3795. We'll reach right back out to you and get you going on your journey here. You can also visit us in person. We have a welcome tent outside. We have a gift for you that's really cool. We'd like to just say thanks for being here.
For
Shane,
sure, man. Yeah, thanks, text. What's that all about?
I know. Dude, I got something that's going to blow your mind.
What's going to blow my mind?
It's a thing called email.
No.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about it, dude. Mail.
You like take this?
Yeah.
And you like send it up.
I like getting mail. I feel good about it. You get something in the mail, you put the little, the little flag up thing. Yeah, that's cool. So what's this now?
So if you want to ever get in touch with us, you can just get on your personal computer.
A personal one.
Or you can get on these things called cell phones.
Oh, dude.
And you can email info@rancho.tv if you ever are confused, you forgot something, you have a question, you want to send us a comment. We love getting your emails. We'll respond to them real quickly. So yeah.
So we don't just have to like yell over the fence anymore.
No, dude.
All right, this is great, dude. I love it. I love the 2000s.
Nice.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks, guys, for letting me come.
We're about 20 years past that now, but it's okay.
Oh, yeah, all right,
it's okay.
great.
Also, if you would like to give at rancho.tv/giving, I wanted to just bring something to your attention. When you set up recurring giving, it kind of allows us to see what's coming. It allows us to budget. It allows us to kind of build ministry based on what's coming in. And I just want you guys to know that what you guys did, as you have given, as you have supported the ministry of Rancho, we had over 650 students.
Yeah,
kids.
I was here, man. They were those kids were awesome. Man.
VBS was last week, and they had a blast. Let's give it up for VBS. They had so much fun.
Yeah, let's clap for those kids and all the people who worked here, man. Those guys were gnarly.
Yeah, so thank you for your giving. When you do that, it allows us to do things like VBS. We're also getting ready to just launch strong into the fall with a bunch of new ministries and a bunch of stuff. So thank you for that. And we put up a recap video of VBS at rancho.tv/Wagar. So you can go there and watch that, check out what happened all week this week. But Shane, I'm glad you came dressed up like this because...
What do you mean dressed up?
It reminds me, like, I was born in 75, as my friend Lisa was down there. What's up, Lisa?
You're kind of an old guy then.
And I was like a child of the 80s, and man, it just brings back so many memories. Like, remember that movie where the guy stands there with the boombox in the air?
I do remember
that one? I think we got a clip of it. Check it out.
That's a class. All right, let's check that out.
Maybe this will bring back some memories.
Yeah, that's how I proposed to my wife with the boombox. Remember that, sweetheart? Yeah, I got it from this.
This is a Say Anything from 1989.
Oh, very cool.
Check it out. A noble underachiever and a beautiful valedictorian fall in love the summer before she goes off to college.
How many of you guys seen that movie? You seen it? Anyone know? Oh man, there's a lot of hands. Yeah, very cool.
What about you? Do you have a movie?
I don't know. Were you guys into like 80s comedy? There was like the airplane movies and there was like Police Squad and all that, Police Academy. My favorite movie, and it's like the only one I owned on a VHS for like years, was Top Secret. You guys ever seen Top Secret with the cow? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Die Hard Top Secret. Anyway, let's
check it out.
I learned how to dance from Top Secret too. Like, it's really great. There he is, Val Kilmer.
It's Iceman himself.
Rocking it.
Yeah, Val. Look, he's at the jukebox.
Do it, guys. Don't be shy. You got a skink.
Well, get out on that floor and hit that rug tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that.
Well, get out on that floor.
That's good
and hit
stuff.
That is
rug
good
tonight.
stuff,
Top
dude.
Secret 1984. It's a parody.
Very
I'm going to
cool.
ruin the movie for everyone. Ready? It's a parody of a World War II spy in which an American rock and roll singer becomes involved in a resistance plot to rescue a scientist imprisoned in East Germany.
Don't worry about that. It's just funny.
So good, man. Well, hey, we got some serious business to
Yes, we
attend
do.
to, right? And I heard you have some hair issues.
I do. I have some hair issues. Since the 80s, guys, I've lost hair, right? My mullet was kind of like this, but not exactly. And now I just kind of rock it like this. But a lot of fun, guys. That was
Yeah.
fun. Thanks for letting me do that.
You are our global outreach
I am.
pastor, and you've got a huge vision going on right now that we
Yes.
want everyone to know about.
All right, so here's what's going on, guys. You know, at Rancho, we like to do things kind of big. We want to make a real impact. And so what we're doing now is think about Rancho Tijuana. Tijuana, that's our neighbors. Mexico is our neighbor, and we're close. And we have people in our community, many of you who are connected there all the times. We share economy, we share family, we share life together. These are truly our neighbors. And there's a lot happening there. There are a lot of needs here that CMOH is meeting, and there's a lot of needs in our neighbors that we want to meet. And one of the things that we're focusing on, I'm having a hard time getting out of my 80s accent. One of the things that we want to focus on is displaced people, refugees. And so we took a team of pastors there. Scott went, Steve, and we visited 3 of the organizations that are having the strongest impact working with these refugees. We made friends with those, some partnerships with these 3 organizations. We went to lunch and built some friendships with them, and we're hanging out together, and we're looking to see what we can do. And so the next step that we want to do right now is we've got the leadership. They're stoked about this. There's an 80s word, stoked. And we want to build a team from us. If you guys are thinking in your mind, I'm into it. I'd love to go to Mexico, not just on a trip, but maybe be part of something regular, like meet quarterly, talk about what's going on, plan the calendar, and start, this could be something that we would like to even grow to where we have like a place that we own or rent down there that we can go to whenever we want and work with the kiddos, work with all sorts of different types of needs. There's so much that we can be involved in. So get a hold of me, guys. Get a hold of me. You can email me at shane.treadway@rancho.tv, or you can visit
Rancho.tv/Wagar. We put a little quick link on there where you can just click it. It'll send an email right to you, Shane. And then just want to encourage you guys, if that's something that's moving in your heart, if that's you, man, get in touch with Shane. We have a huge vision. We want to take this message of grace, of love, compassion down to Mexico and start something really big down there, right?
That's right. It's go beyond, guys. We're going beyond the comfort. We're going beyond the walls of this church, and we're going to just enjoy life, have significant, meaningful life together. So look forward to meeting a lot of you. Look forward to serving with you in Mexico and other places. Feel free to chat with me. Hit me up anytime.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Alex.
Shane. Let's give
Yeah.
Shane a big
Take
hand
care,
for
guys.
being up here. Let me grab your microphone. And we will welcome up Steve, and let's welcome up Monica.
Yeah, we're,
as we
there she is, there
continue.
she is. You know what? I think Shane acts actually more like his 80s image in real life.
I think that he was just being natural. I asked him to dress up, but he just kind of came.
And I
running
never
over
heard
just-
of either of those movies. What's up with that? I graduated in 1985.
Steve,
and
you're old, dude.
I am old, man. I don't
older.
know.
I'm older
Isn't that
still.
weird, though, to think about? Like, when you were talking about emails and texting, like someone from the 80s would have no idea what that is. That is kind of crazy to think about. So, well, hey, thank you guys for joining me today. We have Alex here. This is Monica. She's one of our volunteer pastors. She's on the board, and I invited them to be part of this journey today as we talk about authenticity, and we reimagine authenticity. And we got to spend quite a bit of time this week together talking about it. And you guys are, which I didn't even put together when I first asked you guys have some very different backgrounds. And so, Monica, why don't you tell us a little about your background, your upbringing, and
Sure.
That'd be great.
Sure. Well, like most of us in the room, my upbringing was greatly influenced by the upbringing my parents experienced. And they actually, each in different cities, grew up in church attending homes. But each of their fathers was, or were, really well respected in their church communities. But who they were at church was not who they were in their homes. And so my mother's father was a real Scrooge, not very generous, but in public at his church, he really enjoyed giving off the appearance of wealth and giving. My father's father Again, charming man, well respected in his church community, but at home he was the stereotypical traveling salesman. He was an alcoholic, he was abusive, and a womanizer. And so when my two parents then found one another and started to make a family, one of the things they agreed was that they were not going to engage in the hypocrisy that they had seen in the church. And so the home I grew up in was godless.
Yeah.
We weren't atheists, but we had no time for religion.
Yeah. And Alex, you grew up in a whole different atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost
backwards.
Just flip that coin
Yeah,
over,
flip
and
that
that
over.
was me. Like, my parents grew up in an irreligious home, both of them, and when they decided to start a family, they decided to go to church. And so I was steeped in the church. I was born into the church. I went to kids camp and youth camp and private Christian school and the whole thing. Anything you can think of that a church kid should be a part of, that was me. And my parents did that for all four of us kids. And that's just how I grew up. I grew up in the church with churchy stuff.
Did you do choir?
I did choir, but I didn't really like it.
Choir was the one church thing I did in 3rd grade because my parents figured out that they could drop my brother and I off at the local church.
Yeah, there's some good,
So
good
good.
aspects of
Free
church.
babysitting.
Yeah,
I love it.
and so that's actually where I first heard the gospel, was learning to sing Christmas hymns.
That is so funny. Now with these upbringings, you guys both had views of things. Your view of Christians, so I'd love to hear your view, and your view of the world, as we call it, right? So growing up in that way, when you get into high school and middle school, all that, like, what was your view of Christians, Christianity, and how did that affect you?
Pretty much a waste of time. My brother and I were taught to be thinkers and push back on pretty much everything, which included my parents, actually.
Yeah.
But and to stand on our own. In my house, if you couldn't take care of yourself, it was, so sad, too bad. And so.
And you achieved a lot. I mean, you were a great student, jobs, things like that.
Well, that's where my identity was.
Right,
And
right.
that's where I got affirmation, was
Yeah.
at being the best
Yeah.
at whatever it was that I was doing.
Yeah.
So, but along the way, I had friends, usually through school, I thought they were friends, who would take me on as a project. So it followed the same pattern. I'd be befriended. I'd get the invite to a sleepover, which included church the next morning. I would go.
Always Saturday night. I'm not doing no more Saturday night sleepovers.
Yeah, you know what? It was kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
I liked, like I said, I pushed back on everything, and that included host parents sometimes.
Right.
So, but then when I gave the no, oh no, this isn't for me, the friendship, 99 times out of 100, that was the end of that. So what I experienced was this ongoing rejection from the Christian community, not the least of which happened with a study partner I had in algebra. We'd go to her house, we'd sit at the kitchen table, we'd work on our algebra, and a couple visits in, I noticed her mom kind of prodding me with questions a little bit, and come to find out that, questions about my upbringing and my family and the church we attended, and I was of the world. And her daughter was forbidden from hanging out with me anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't smoke or anything.
Yeah. And one thing you talked about is how much you could have used the family, like a loving family to bring you in. I know my upbringing, there was a family named the Deals that my family imploded, divorce and alcoholism and everything. And they were the family, I got to tell them 10 or 15 years later how much they meant. They never knew, so. But Alex, you had the view of the world, right? So
I was the family that was interviewing the friends and finding out if they were good enough to hang out with, and if they went to church.
Warn them about people like her. Yeah.
And so I just grew up with this heaviness that was just kind of ingrained in me, that the world was evil, and that the world was out there, and that the world was something else. The world was something that needed to be saved. The world was something that could drag me away from God, that I could lose my relationship with God by being too involved in the world. It was this big, bad thing that I was to stay away from. And that's kind of the way that I grew up.
Yeah. Did you ever do the stand on a chair in youth group and who can pull? The person's going to pull you down before you get pulled up.
When you say projects, that's literally, I had projects. You know, I had this weight. I remember youth pastors just like trying to get me to go witness, trying to get me to go share my faith, trying to get me to go make converts. I had a season in my life where I had to go door knocking, and I hated every stinking minute of it.
Right.
I felt so inauthentic. I felt, I hate this. I would never open my door to someone
Right.
who was knocking on the door to try and tell me about a religion.
Yeah.
Now, see, from the perspective of a person of the world, what a waste of time.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Hey, we
But-
were on the same page.
But you became a Christian in your early 20s, and that started an interesting journey for you, going to church and seeing hypocrisy still, but then something happened over the next 10 years. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, I got married, for one thing, and to an amazing man whose name happens to be Steve, but
Yes.
we'll refer to him as Steve the more handsome.
Yeah, well.
And
I think just all Steves are handsome. It's just kind of how it works, right? So any Steves out there, woo, yeah.
anyway, and he comes from a background much like Alex's, and so I had been a believer just for about a year when we got married, and we knew we needed to be in a church, and so we started attending his parents' church. This was after trying to attend the church that he had found in our college town, where I was completely rejected because I hadn't come to know the Lord the right way. But as a married couple, we found a church that was more welcoming, and there was still, a lot of doing. The experience I had with God at conversion was a lot about love, but this was now my family. This was the family of God. And so I not only drank the Kool-Aid of do it right, I got really good at making the Kool-Aid, and took that brain and started teaching and repeating the things that I pretty much was told I was supposed to.
Yeah, and that was an interesting journey because you kind of came to know the Lord by really kind of reading and reading the life of Jesus, and then going to church and going, this doesn't look like the life of Jesus, and then getting kind of converted. It's almost like a double conversion into that kind of world. And
I think I lost Jesus. I lost Jesus on the path of what I thought the church was supposed to be, my interpretation of that.
And then Alex, you kind of have a journey in your life. Never really became a super rebellious kind of person, a little bit here or there, but got even more involved. But then some stuff happened to you that kind of really impacted your life.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of continued my journey into the church. Like you said, had a couple little things here and there where went off and did my own thing for a little bit, but I got more and more involved in volunteering and learned how to play the guitar, and just started repeating these things that I had learned, and became a youth pastor, and then got into more things like this, and then started helping with church planning, and then I got involved in a church that was just a rocket ship of a church. I mean, it was just crazy. It went from just like a garage to 1,000 people in just a few years, and one of the most incredible journeys I've been on. Made some of the best friends I've ever made. Saw some of the most authentic relationships that I've ever been a part of, and then the whole thing just fell apart.
Yeah.
Because leadership just the worst of the worst.
The worst of the worst.
The worst
like
of the
the
worst.
worst things that we hope we hear a lot of. It happened right in your midst. And you were on staff at that.
I was on
church,
staff, and it just
devastation.
really kind of just. I think it just kind of like reignited something inside of me that had always been there. And that was these feelings of like just some doubts, some issues, some questions that I had. Monica, when we were talking, you had originally said that one of the reasons you didn't like Christians is because they didn't think. And I'd be honest, like I think I was one of those Christians that just didn't think.
Yeah.
I just had some stuff that got baked into me when I was 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 15 and 17. And I didn't know why I believed it.
Yeah.
I
That's
struggled.
easy.
Yeah.
It's easy, for that to happen. But God's so faithful, and He does bring those situations and those seasons to, I think, invite us to re-examine our relationship with Him. And I know that.
Well, that happened to you. So you're on a journey of authenticity. Some stuff happened, good stuff, but it got you thinking. Tell us about kind of this journey when that began to shift and change. And
Well, so it was 4 stuffs.
4 stuffs.
4 kids born to us. And not at the same time, thank God. But we had a couple others come through our home over the years, and we raised them in the church, much like your upbringing. And then we came. There was one thing though; they were definitely our kids because they were thinkers.
Yes.
And
I know your kids, and they are definitely thinkers.
and they're independent.
Yes.
And they...
Don't you hate when that happens? You're all, oh no,
No.
they're like me. No.
I do not, actually.
No, we love it.
Yeah. So, but we started hitting some bumpy things with some of our kids, and one in particular kind of pushed Steve and I to seek counsel from some older, wiser parents in our church. And to be clear, you know, this kid was on a really challenging path, and we were concerned for life and limb, so to speak. So but the response that we got, the counsel we got, was that it was time, and here's the throwback word.
Oh, yeah.
Time for tough love.
Yeah.
It was, he had wandered, and it was time to just cut the strings and let him go and learn from the consequences of his actions. Steve and I wrestled with that. I went off to pray one day about it and what our relationship should look like. And I suddenly became aware that I had become a Pharisee and that I had laid that on my kids. And all I could think about was that where Jesus talks about not putting a millstone around the neck, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I found myself asking the question, what does love look like in this situation to this kid and my other kids? And that began a journey that hasn't stopped. That's been quite a few years ago.
Yeah. And you, just through yours, things changed for you too. You kept involved in church. I mean, you had all the reasons to bail, but you kept there, but you started getting passionate about certain things.
Yeah, and I think it's very similar to what does love look like? We had this conversation. It's like, I think I asked the question, like, what does Jesus look like in my own life? And I don't think Jesus looked like some of the things that were baked into me as I was growing up.
Yeah.
And so I had to really wrestle with that stuff. And I feel like I've come out the other side a little bit, like just a lot more secure in my faith, a lot more secure in some of the things that I believe about Jesus, and very excited about the life that he calls me to.
Yeah. And even in that, and I want to thank both of you, because even you, this week when we spent time together, you talked about even in that church, it was so community focused and you loved, it was still feeding the Kool-Aid. And I think from that, it opened you up to be you. And we read similar things. This is one of my kindred spirits here when it comes to just thought and talking about things. And thank you. And he also, one thing Alex is, he's our fun guy. He says, man, his authenticity is have fun in life. And he brings that to this church, and he wants that in this church. And just thank you for that. You've taught me a lot about that. And Monica, you know, you still are a very systematic thinker, and your love for the word and study for the word, but you asking that question, what does love look like, is so apparent in your life. And I know you guys have faced backlash because of these things. You deal with stuff, people going like, oh, warning you now, warn your kid, now it's warn you. And you guys have just taken that and journeyed with that, and thank you for being part of what we're doing here at Rancho. So let's give them a hand, and thank you guys so much. You know, as authenticity is not easy. You know, authenticity is not easy to grab hold of, and to really live the way you want to live and be who you really are. And it really struck me last week. I was at VBS last week, and I think I was around 650 of the little human beings that are just authentic, right? The one kid that grabs the water gun and just takes off running, give me that back. No! I'm like, well, he's being himself, right? And as you get older, that begins to change. Because last week, there was also like 100 adventure guides, and those adventure guides are teenagers. I don't think teenagers feel as free to be who they are as the little munchkins do, right? All of a sudden, they have things to worry about. School, sports teams, family, and church. I remember 20 years as a youth pastor, you would kind of challenge kids. You'd always hear this idea that, oh, they act differently at school than they act at church. So the challenge was, don't be a hypocrite. And then probably 15 years into being a youth pastor, I realized, what if where they were being a hypocrite is actually at church? What if who they really were was what they're at school? And when they come to church and they hear like, you should act like you do here, there. I mean, what a difficult situation and journey to be in. And it doesn't get any easier as we get older. We think we're more free to be ourselves, but we're probably not when you become adults. Still a lot of pressure, right? a lot of pressure at work, a lot of pressure at home, a lot of pressure in our lives, what we're going to do. And you know what? Church can be one of the most difficult places to feel free to be yourself. It can be one of the most difficult places to feel free to be yourself. Man, the pressure can be so great to conform, right? To conform, to adapt, to talk in certain ways, to take stands in areas of things that you might not agree with, right? Because the whole church is on the same boat. To believe things that maybe you struggle with believing. Add to that just the daily struggle of relationships, circumstances, just emotional, mental health. There's so much going on. I saw a cartoon this week, kind of remind me of that. Have you ever felt this way going to church? Go take a mask, put it on, welcome, and then the pastor says, I want you all to feel free to get really vulnerable with each other today. Ever felt that, where the pastor has a mask on as well? I mean, that just struck a chord. So many times this is how we feel. And here's the kicker for me. For many, it's the fear of God that has been instilled in us from an early age that can make authenticity scary. We've been raised, warned, right, that God is looking at you, God sees you. Ooh. Whew. That can be a huge load. I mean, isn't that what the Bible's about? The Bible's about warning you to act right, warning you to believe right, or else you will be rejected. That's often what the message is, and it can be very scary. And no doubt, that kind of stuff you see in the Bible, right? But remember what this series we're doing this summer is called. It's about reimagining a world according to Jesus. We're reimagining a world according to Jesus, and that's what's important. A few years ago, one summer, I decided just to read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John over and over again. That's all I was going to read out of the Bible for the summer. And just keep reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. If you don't know, that's called the Gospels. That's where you'll find the life and the teachings of Jesus. It's the first 4 books of the New Testament in the Bible. And I did. I read that over and over again. And all of a sudden, a question, as I was reading it, all of a sudden a question popped into my mind. And this is what I focused on. What upset Jesus? I don't know why that stood out to me. He overturns tables. He seems pretty gnarly at times, going after people. And I wanted to know what upset him. And one of those chapters that has always stood out to me is Matthew 23. This is the chapter where Jesus goes off, man. He goes off. But who does he go off to? And I think it's important that we think through these woes, these warnings that Jesus warns. Let's take a look at verse 1 in Matthew 23. Then Jesus said to the crowds and to his disciples, these are all probably Jewish people out here listening to him, the teachers of the law and the Pharisees, they sit at Moses' seat. So you must obey them and do everything that they tell you. You're in this religious system. You feel this obligation. You must obey them. They're the religious leaders. But check out what he says. But do not do what they do, for they do not practice what they preach. They tie up heavy loads. They put them on men's shoulders, but they themselves are not willing to lift a finger to move. Whew, that's pretty heavy. Don't do what they do. They are burdening you. They're burdening you. Then he goes on in verse 13. Woe to you. He starts talking right to them. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You shut the kingdom of heaven in men's faces. That is a powerful statement. You are closing the doors to the kingdom of heaven. You think you're just warning or whatever you're doing as a hypocrite? You're shutting the door. And look at what he goes on to say. You yourselves do not enter, nor you let those enter who are trying to. There's people trying to enter and you won't let them. You won't let them. So many rules, regulations, and hoops to jump through. And when they do come in, you travel over land and sea to win a single convert, and when they become one, you make them twice as much a son of hell as you are. That's a pretty heavy statement. So not only are you not letting people get in, but when they finally jump over all the hoops of your legalistic rules and regulations, they become twice the children of the devil than you are. It's like I've known pastors that I'm okay with, but the people that follow them are real pains. You know, it's like when Monica said, I just didn't take the Kool-Aid. I began becoming a great maker of the Kool-Aid, right? I became even worse off. Matthew 23, and then in verse 23 and 24. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You give 1/10 of your spice, mint and dill, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law. We talked about this last week. Justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides. You strain out a gnat. You look at these laws and rules and regulations. Oh, you all must follow this. You must do this. But you swallow a camel. What's he saying? You are more about the law than love. You are more about holding people accountable to this stuff than helping and caring for them. That's a pretty heavy accusation. And in Matthew 23:25, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but the inside they are full of greed and self-indulgence. Now note, it's not just about being a hypocrite. It's not just about being a hypocrite. Man, I hear that so much. Oh, we're hypocrites, they're a hypocrite, I don't want to go to church, they're all hypocrites, right? I mean, what is Jesus talking about when he's talking about hypocrites? Because that could be a burden that you carry. I know early on in my Christian life, I don't want to be a hypocrite. Oh, I'm a hypocrite. Oh, I'm driving this. Oh, I must be a hypocrite. I go to church and I praise the Lord, and then I'm doing this, I'm struggling with this. Oh, I must be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. It's not just saying that. What is Jesus saying? Is he trying to heap burdens on you and me just to heap those burdens? When in reality, what he's talking about is people that are using their religious power, their religious prestige to oppress other people, to close the door of the kingdom on them, or to make them twice the children of the devil as they are. That's the hypocrite. That's what he's talking about. That's what these people are doing. Here's how I concluded it. That Jesus' strictest warnings were directed to those who were making it difficult for others to come to God. Let that sink in. They were making it difficult for others to come to God. Read through the life and teachings of Jesus. Read through when he begins to rebuke or challenge. It is always to the religious leaders. It's to those that are making it difficult for people to come to God. And the early church, I think, started to grasp that. In the book of Acts, in chapter 15, they had a council because non-Jews were coming into the church. What do we do with these Gentiles? They haven't ever been in the church. Now they're coming in as followers of Jesus. What do we do? And they concluded in Acts 15:19, it is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. Let's not make it difficult. And you know what? I personally don't think that's stuck real well over the years. Might have worked for a while, but there's some history where it can get tough again. You don't believe the same thing. We're going to kill you and literally kill you. Here we are sitting now with some 25,000 different denominations. We don't do this real well. We don't do this real well. A huge list of doctrines that so much. You go to a certain place, here's our doctrines. Do you follow these or do you not follow these? This is who we are. And you can just go search for churches, right? Go through the doctrinal statement and like, oh no, I don't believe that. I'm going to go over here. No. People love it. They get on Rancho and go, you don't have enough doctrinal statement because we're a diverse community of friends, right? We're trying to focus on other things. It's hard. Or a list of rules to follow and live by. And there's leaders throughout history, leaders that can speak with such passionate, challenging rhetoric that you feel overwhelmed, right? You can feel overwhelmed to follow, to believe like they believe no matter what, to be in the in crowd. This is who we are, you in or out. And now many people love and thrive in those kind of settings. I get it, man, we love and thrive. I did. I was in that kind of setting where I got saved in the first church I went to. I loved it. You know, I felt like, man, I got accolades because I'm right in line. It didn't matter. But as I started thinking, it got more difficult. As I started thinking the way I think, which is pretty difficult. But a lot of people thrive in that. They love being at a place that everything's buttoned down. We have it all figured out. Here's our 15-page doctrinal statement of where we are. This is where you are or not. And I'm not putting that down. It's amazing churches doing amazing things that fall into that category. But some of you here today, some of you listening online today, that has not been the safest environment for you. Maybe because of the things you struggle with. Maybe because of some of the thoughts and the struggling with belief and trust and that kind of stuff. Maybe it's become difficult for you. Maybe you question things too much or you feel you just don't fit the mold. And whenever you went to church, you felt like these woes were at you because you didn't just, inside you knew, I'm not here. Well, I think it's time to reimagine Jesus' woes as being directed at those Jesus was talking to, the religious leaders using their power over others. I think that's the first thing we need to reimagine. We need to let that sit. We need to let that be who Jesus was talking to, because that's who he was. It's not talking. He was not just talking to normal people like you and me, right? Normal people like you and me, where we wrestle with the pressures of life, where we struggle at times with what we believe and what we think we believe, right? Or we feel like all we do is fail over and over again. Okay, I got to step back because I misspoke. I don't think those woes are talking to you, but I do think he's talking to me. Here I am today, spewing out my rhetoric to you. Are you buying it? Are you taking it? Every week we get up here and do it. I do think he's warning me. I need to take those woes seriously. I'm the one that can make it hard for you to get to God or not. Because we come ready to listen, and this is just how we do church. I understand that. And you know what? I'm often told by people that I don't warn you enough. I make it too easy. There's too much love and grace going on around here. What about the woes? Well, we talked about the woes. And I get challenged that I need to be more like that. But you know what? That would not be authentic of me. I'm just going to be honest with you. That would not be authentic of me for me to do that. Number one, it would make me feel like who Jesus was talking about 2,000 years ago. And I don't really want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. But because you know what? I wrestle with the pressures of life as well. I wrestle with the pressures of life as well. I struggle at times with believing in what I believe. Oh, you don't want to know what goes on in Steve's head. What I'm thinking of when I wake up at 2 in the morning. And you know what? I oftentimes feel like I'm failing over and over and over again. But here's what I want you to hear today. This is my authentic self, as authentic as I can truly be honest with you today. I feel in the midst of that so accepted and loved by God that that's what drives me every day. I feel so deeply accepted, at love, and at peace with God. It is not the fear of God that drives me. I'm just going to be honest. I don't feel a fear of God. I try. Think of the seraphims, and they're looking at, rah! You know, and they're screaming in front of the throne room of God, rah! What if they feel it? And I just go like, I just don't got it. The love of God seen through Christ has so changed everything I think and how I think. That's what moves me the most. And I cannot be authentic if I just don't share that with you. That's why I'm stuck on grace and mercy, justice and love. That's why. Because that's what gets me. That's what moves me. It's the love from God. It's the love from God. I made sure I said that. It's not my love to God that drives me. It's his love to me. That's what drives me. And you know what else? It's love from many of you out there that are part of my life. That's what gets me. The verse that sticks in my head is Matthew 11, verse 28. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That's the message I hear from Jesus every day of my life. In the midst of my struggles, in the midst of my feeling like a failure, whatever it might be, I'm not driven by the fear of God. I'm driven by his love. I am driven by love. And how I desire Rancho to be a place where we can just live free, right? Live free right here on the shirt. That we can live free, so trusting and believing that we're loved and accepted by God, that we can then love and accept others right here, right now, while we're at. Someone sent me a text Oh, I knew I was going to look at this right now and I shouldn't have. Oh no, I got 5 more texts in the meantime. No, just kidding. He quoted this: the revolutionary thinking that God loves me as I am and not as I should be requires radical rethinking and profound emotional readjustment. Woo! I got that after last message. The radical revolutionary thinking that God loves me as I am now, not out as I could be. I've heard that so much. Just to rest and be right here today. And then do good together. Come together in that love and acceptance, and now go out there and do good and change the world. Can you imagine a church where we can be authentic, take our masks off, and trust we are accepted and loved just as we are? Can you imagine that? I want to. I want to. I hope you do too. I think it's going to be the love of God that's going to drive that. And I believe for some of you here today, some of you listening today, it starts with your own heart first trusting that right where you're at is good, okay. Right where you're at is where God is. Not where you think you need to get to, where you're at. That unconditional love of God where you're at, that's what can empower our lives more than anything. For God so loved the world, right, that he gave his only son. And I love 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. It's time. It's time for us to see God's love as driven out fear. It's not an easy journey, but it's a road worth traveling on. It's a road worth getting on. There's no destination, man. This is a journey day in and day out where mercy triumphs over judgment and love triumphs over fear. We're going to close with a song. Evan, you back there? Evan, when we were talking about this message, Evan said, hey, there's a song called Father's House that talks about this. And I'm like, oh, cool. And we talked about it a little bit. And I went home and I read the lyrics. Hair went up on the back of my neck, because you're right. Then I listened to it. It was so country that I'm like, oh no, it's a country song.
It's not country at all. It's not even close to a country song.
It's not, I don't know. And I'm nowhere close to a country kind of person.
Right, sure.
But this song impacts you, and I see, what are the parts of this why'd you want to do this song?
So as we're talking through this and understanding, because it said, we have like a Google sheet, and it just said judgment and woes.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun one, huh?
What the heck message are we doing?
Yeah, Scott leaves and goes, Steve, do this one. I'm like, oh, awesome.
But we knew through the conversation that it was going to be more against that, you know. And this song talks about being not in just a physical place, but being in the Father's house. You can check your shame at the door. You can leave your guilt behind, and that truly means that. A lot of times, like you were talking about, growing up, it's like I can check my shame at the door because I got to put on the mask.
Yeah.
Like I have to hide my shame.
Yeah.
But this song truly talks about, no, this is that whole story in the bridge. Prodigal come home, and the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. So when we realize that we can truly be ourselves, this song talks about that. The guilt is left behind. The shame is left behind, and we can be our true, authentic selves.
Well, man, I hope that just as they sing this song, that you will pray with me. God, just help us to just take in the beauty of these words. That it would begin a journey in our hearts and minds where we right now, right here, right at this moment, we can trust and believe we're loved, we're accepted, we're forgiven, we're yours. May that be the starting point to be in a church that could be authentic together. For your glory and honor in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thanks, Evan.
Go ahead and stand to your feet. Come on, let's sing this out together. Say, what?
Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. No, failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door. It ain't welcomed anymore. in a room. Prison doors swing wide. The dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place. The cynical find faith. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Circles, walls are quaking. Strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door. It ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Ooh, lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door. It ain't welcomed anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house.
Oh, man. What another great morning together. And I hope that when you come here every single week, I hope you come through that door, lay your burdens down, leave that shame, leave that guilt at the door. And I hope when you leave filled up, ready to go out and do good in the name of Jesus. We're doing incredible things here. We love to be with you every Sunday. Thanks for being with us. And if you go out today and there's any food left at that produce stand out there, all that goes towards Community Mission of Hope. You can order that earlier in the week too. They're harvesting all kinds of fruits and vegetables that they'd like to get into your hands and support Community Mission of Hope. I think that's it. Have a great day. And I think the band's got something for us. You guys are free to go.